Hello and welcome to the Now Page update for April 2024. This channel, PolyInnovator, PolyInnovator TV, whatever I end up calling it in the future, it's probably going to change quite a bit. And ironically, the only two series that I've been posting on here have been my interviews sporadically, and then once a month doing these Now Page updates. And I even had someone look at my channel recently, and they were saying something about how these videos are interrupting the flow of all the other videos I do. Sure, but the actual point of these is not for gaining attention or traffic. I'm not trying to grow using the Now Page stuff. I do these in order to really, first off, just update people on my life and let them know what I'm doing, because it's kind of hard to update a ton of people all individually. So this way I can do it kind of in mass if they pay attention to it. But more importantly than that, I could always look back on these videos and blog posts, as well as my kids and future grandchildren could oh, I want to learn about grandpa. What happened? And that's kind of my main motivation behind these. And so, yes, they kind of are out of place on the channel. The channel is my personal brand. It's not necessarily just for knowledge management and polymaths. It's for everything I create. I actually had a really hard time letting myself make a new channel for the gaming channel and even the content creator channel, which honestly does sort of fit within my realm of expertise on my personal channel, but it didn't do it justice to have it all in one place. By having a separate channel for the content creation, the PolyTools channel, it allowed for better growth on that channel and for both of my interview series not to compete with each other. And so it's just one of those things where I let the logic win out, not my own like preconceived, oh, it has to be all in one place. You might have noticed I changed some names there. So the Poly and Content channel was that model I created when it comes to creating content and reaching a wider audience. I might still keep the Poly and Content channel and just call it Poly Tools, kind of the same way that this channel is PolyInnovator, but the actual name is TeleInnovator. I like coming up with names, but I'm also realizing too that overbranding things can make things more complicated. And since the complexity of a polymathic brand is already kind of hard to grasp for a lot of people, I'm trying to find ways to simplify it. So I might end up just kind of, since I have the PolyTools website and the Poly and Content channel, I might just call it the PolyTools channel just to make it easier. And then the PolyInnovator Gaming, I usually called it the Generalist Gamer, and that might still work, but having those two different names there is a little bit confusing, and yeah, and who knows what happens when I make a music channel. But I've been doing a lot recently, and I actually am making this a little too late. I was gonna do it on the first, but for some reason, I don't know if it's because it was April Fool's Day or the rain or something like that, just did not want to do it. Just did not even think about doing it. And then yesterday, I was intending to get it done. I even wrote it in the blog post that I was working on it on the second, excuse me, but I didn't do it. I was like, dang it. So I'm working on it on the third, and sometimes that happens. It's okay. I've been really behind on content for a long while now. Honestly, I can't blame the sickness, but I haven't been the same since I got sick. And I think I got a little bit better towards the end of the year, but this year has not been that great when it comes to content. I think January was all right for the most part, but February was completely non-existent. And then when it comes to March, I didn't really do any content either. And I was supposed to get the season done for the Polycast back in New Year's 3 months ago. It's so frustrating to me. I know it's not that big of a deal. I don't have that many subscribers yet, and so it's like not even really that big of a problem because no one really cares. But I care because especially since I told myself I was going to finish the season by New Year's, and then I just never got around to doing it. Now I did have to record more interviews, and I guess some of the interviewees I had to wait for. So who knows? Maybe it's actually a good thing. But I was looking at the dates, and it looks like the first interview I did for this season was literally a year ago in April. And I find that to be so ridiculous that it's taken me a year to finish the season. But again, I've had a lot of great guests. Maybe the timing of things needed to be like that, and that's why it happened. Okay, fine. But I want to be able to finish that, take a break, especially since this month I'm working really hard with my job, and then on top of that, trying to catch up with content. And speaking of content, the content planning has always been a very important system for me. And I actually created a system in Obsidian a while back using the reminder plugin, but it didn't really quite work out for me. I didn't care for using that method for content planning. Ironically, Capacities and Acrium, which are the tools I used after Obsidian, they actually used a very similar methodology where you would pick a date either on Capacity's database or an Acrium. Every page had a date option you can choose, and then it would give you like a timeline next to your daily note. And so I really wish I could still have that feature in Obsidian. I haven't seen to find a way to really do that, which is weird. I figured that wouldn't be that big of a deal. Like technically the reminder plugin does it, but I feel like there could be a better version of that. And I'm honestly looking at Obsidian right now, and I think that I did a much better job than I did even the first time around. But learning and saving articles and even just organizing all my data, it is so much better at Obsidian. Notion, I created a really great the PIOS system, a framework, but that framework was limited because there wasn't as many things I could do with each layer. So I would have had to come out with some crazy templates in order to really make use of each layer. Whereas there's certain plugins that help me, first of all, journal monthly, yearly, quarterly, daily. And that really is a unique feature that only Obsidian and NotePlan have. And it's like, okay, that's something that's really important, especially since my system revolves around these layers that are yearly, quarterly, month. Like the timing is very intertwined, I guess you could say, with those layers. But then there's other things where the plugins can help me write more. They can keep track of my timeline. I'm just looking around at what I have here, and it's like I think that the system, the PIOS system, works best, at least at this point, in Obsidian. I think it will work pretty well with NotePlan, but I don't have Mac, so I can't tell. Point is, everything else that I was doing besides content planning was really superior in Obsidian. And so now that there's a ton more plugins, maybe I can find something that will actually help me create content a little bit more effectively. Maybe I can get over myself and use the Kanban feature. What I really want is to be able to drag and drop. So taking my content from the file tree and dragging it to a date or dragging it to some sort of system to organize it. And so I'm using Kanban in a unique way, but I'm not really too confident in that. I am going on a trip next month, which this month, not next month, and that is to Vegas, LA, Vegas, which is really interesting. It's like it's a weird sandwich right there. But there's two conferences that my company wants me to go to, particularly that's my boss and whatnot, and it's gonna be really exciting, I think, because not only do I get to help the company and really prove myself, my value to the team, but on top of that, it's a great place to explore and experience things. And I've never been to either place. So I think it's really gonna be exciting for that. And the LA trip is mainly just the interim between the two conferences. So I get to kind of explore and do my own thing there. Obviously, still working a little bit, but still. And so that trip's gonna be very interesting. I'm gonna be able to meet a lot of people, meet up with a lot of guests that I actually ended up talking to remotely. I didn't even think about doing in-person interviews too, huh? But the point is, that trip's gonna be really interesting. I'm gonna learn a lot, get to experience a lot, to meet a lot of people. And I also got a little Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, which is a retro gaming handheld where I get to put all my games on there and just it's nice to have a dedicated device for that because your phone could do most of it, but yeah, when I'm traveling, I don't want to drain the battery just from gaming. It's like, okay, let's use a separate device. So that's really exciting. I also mentioned in the blog post that I'm getting a little new mini PC. I'm hoping that, considering how big this one is, I might as well show you. It's just like it's taking up a lot of space on the desk and it actually weighs down the desk a little too much. So I'm trying to make sure I don't like it's pretty heavy. Uh, and I'm excited because that mini PC has been what I'm wanting for a long time, and it's technically pretty much better, if not equal, to this PC, which is crazy to me. But newer products. Other than that, creating content, moving to Obsidian, doing the trip. It's all that's what's happening now. It's what's coming up. Really excited about all that. Hopefully, you guys can be excited for me too. Leave a comment if you have any questions about Obsidian or the trip or whatever. Cheers.